Shalom, praises to Yahweh, Hashem Shai, Hashem Harakah Kodash. Double honors unto the elder apostles of Great Musa on the wall. Well, Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is Paya Allah. Uh, this is a response video to the Apostles Live video, right, which we'll get into in a second. I want to open up with this Jeremiah 51:19. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. All right, so let me read it again. The portion of Jacob is not like them. Who's Jacob? All right. We need context as far as what the scripture is talking about. Jacob is the son of Isaac, all right, who's twin brother of Esau. Jacob and Esau, all right, which today would be known as the progenitors. Esau being the progenitor of the so-called white race, all right, the Edomites. I say so-called because it's not a thing of, even though it isn't, well, so-called because they're not actually white. They're red as a namesake. Edom means other one, meaning red, all right, known as the red people. And furthermore, even when you deal with it today, it's not as straightforward as if you look like a so-called white individual, you're Edomite. It's if you go to the line, if you go back to the line of Esau, you're an Edomite, all right, because you got black Edomites today, all right, and then Jacob is a forefather of the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, well, West Indians, being Puerto Ricans, the Colombians, Guatemalans, so on and so forth, so-called Indian variant, and Native Americans, all right, they're the Israelites, but then as well, we've been scattered, so we look like everything under the sun. All right. So it says a portion of Jacob pertaining to those individuals I mentioned, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, is not like them. Right. We ain't like who? The other nations. When you go into the book of Deuteronomy, it speaks to, as far as us being a peculiar people. All right. For he is the former of all things. Right. We are, as far as any culture, anything of cultural significance, we spearhead it, we pioneer it. All right. When you know things, this is on the low end of it all, the low end vibration of it all, as far as fashion trends or slang and all that type of stuff. But then when you deal with things like monarchies, which I'm going to get into, and you deal with like rulership and cult, ultimately the law, statute, and commands which the Heavenly Father gave us, which is wisdom, that pertains to us, right? And Israel is a rod of his inheritance, right? We are, as I said, we are the rod of the Heavenly Father's inheritance, all right. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name, right? And that's if you've done it, sanctified it, Yahweh, all right. He's basically putting his stamp on it. So what I'm gonna get into is this little excerpt, the apostle speaking about vocab when he was over here in the UK, and this is something I was aware of, obviously being over here in the UK, and the Benjamites saying it to him. These, brothers, this is very um, well-known fact, and there's little other tidbits I'm gonna, Lord willing, uh, edify you with as far as the culture over in the UK that feeds into the whole. A lot of so-called white individuals or English, Scottish, Irish, being Israelites, doing things that pertain to Israel through the Spirit. All right, but let's play this excerpt.
Help me out, y'all. Help me out.
So he's doing Hebrew hopscotch.
He's skilling us out.
Oh yeah.
Like if I forget the scripture, I'll say, help me out, y'all. Then he started saying, help me out, y'all. Help me out.
So he's doing Hebrew hopscotch.
He's doing Hebrew hopscotch.
I got a quick precept. This is Psalm 19.
He went to England. There was one older Benjaminite.
Yeah.
Cursed. Yo, he rolled up on vocab. He started cursing the dude out.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, then he said, He said, what flag? What flag? Which I didn't even notice, right? He said, what's the flag of England? What's the flag of England called? And then vocab said the Union Jack. He said, what do you think it means? I said, it means the Union of Jacob. And I said, well, it's short for Jacob. Union Jack means the Union of Jacob. You know?
That makes sense.
As a matter of fact, go to the Google and see what it says. What does the Union Jack mean?
I've heard of Union Jack.
What
I didn't
does
know
the
it
Jack,
meant
Jack is
Jack
Jake.
yeah,
The
Union of Jacob. Yeah. Check that
It
out.
says the Union Jack, also known as the Union flag, is the national excuse me, is the national flag of the United Kingdom. It combines the crosses of three patron saints representing the countries united under the British monarchy: England, Scotland, and Ireland. The flag features the cross of St. George, which is England, the cross of St. Andrew, which is Scotland.
Hold up, the only saints were Israelites. The only saints were Israelites. Matter of fact, England, they used to say, some sources say land of the Angles, some sources say land of the angels.
Okay.
England. And then British,
The Anglo-Saxon
Right,
means,
right.
Anglo meaning angels, Saxon meaning sons of Isaac.
yep, and then British means covenant man. The only covenant man, according to the scriptures, are Israelites. That's the one the Heavenly Father, that's the nation the Heavenly Father made a covenant with by sacrifice. Go ahead.
All right, and it says the cross of St. Andrew, which is Scotland, and the cross of St. Patrick, Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland means land of the irate, land of the angry.
Yep.
That's why you have to fight in Irish.
You know what? Rephrase that. It says, what does the Jack mean in the Union Jack? What does the Jack mean in the Union Jack?
What does the Jack mean in the Union Jack?
Another way of saying Jacob is Jake. Jack.
Jack.
All right, it's worth watching it because they go into certain tidbits of information. All right, but I wanted to bring this out a little bit of information. I build upon what I was saying going into. All right, so this is the Union Jack from Wikipedia. All right, this is the flag of the UK, if you're not aware. All right, which pertains to which they went into dealing with the cross of St. Andrew, the cross of St. Patrick, and the cross of St. George. So St. George is England. Because during when England play, you see these flags, especially if you go down to a working class estate. There's actually one not too far from me. It's like the old England I remember growing up. Bloody hell. If you go there, it's like St. George. It could be a tourist attraction anytime England's playing. If I ever go down there again, I'll probably try and take a picture because it's it had me in awe. But that area is actually well known for being the last of the patriotic English. It's a stronghold over there. And another area quite local to it. If you're black, you might end up dying over there, man, like someone did before. But with what's his name? Stephen Lawrence, right back in '93. I remember that growing up. They stabbed him up. But yeah, St. George, the cross of St. Pat, as you can see, and then the St. Andrew. All right. So when you combine them all, you get that. All right. Now, I'm gonna have to get straight into the history as far as why, well, it says it here, as far as why it was made. So the flag consists of the red cross of St. George, the patron saint of England, edged in white, superimposed of the red satile of St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, also edged in white, superimposed with a satile of St. Andrew, the saint of Scotland. Now, mind you, when you deal with the saints, who are the saints? All right, if someone has the title is entitled a saint, why would they be entitled a saint? Because that means they pertain to the tribes or the children of Israel. All right. Uh, let's see. So, I believe it's in Psalms. Hold That's it. Psalms 50 and 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. All right, and that pertains to the children of Israel. When you go back to the book of Exodus, the 24th chapter, all right, where they were sanctified by way of the blood. So that's where the word saint goes back to, the sanctified ones. All right, and the children of Israel, the sanctified ones. That's another nickname, you could say, of the children of Israel. And this is why you have the patron saints, because during the time of the Dark Ages, you had our people all controlling the land, mass known as Europe today, right, to different various capacities, and basically, they call themselves saints. So when you read about these individuals, Saint George, Saint Patrick, and Saint Andrew, these are Israelites, all right, that bore British culture, which even the word British feeds, like the apostle said, feeds further into the idea of the covenant, all right, because British goes back to the word Bara'af, Hayash, all right, Bara'af, I believe is the correct pronunciation, and Lashon Kodash, which is covenant, and Ayash is man. So the covenant men were the Israelites. These are the saints. Right? That's why the landmass was known as such. Wales is not represented in the flag by Wales patron Saint David, because the flag was designed while Wales was part of the Kingdom of England. All right. The origins of the flag date to the earlier flag of Great Britain, which was established, and this is the point that I wanted to bring out, because this goes further, gives some depth into the whole Union of Jacob. All right, the origins of the flag date to the earlier flag of Great Britain, which was established in 1606 by a proclamation of King James VI and first of Scotland and England. All right, the present design was established by an order in council in council Slug. So the present design was established by an order in council following the Act of Union 1801, which joined the Kingdom of Great Britain and the Kingdom of Ireland to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. It was unchanged following uh, the succession of the Irish Free State in 1922. All right. Um, let's look at this. So you had there the earlier form of it uh, um, without Ireland. All right. Um, right. So reading on. So it says it is sometimes asserted that the term Union Jack properly refers only to naval uses, but the assertion was dismissed by the Flag Institution in 2013 after historical investigations. All right. So yeah. So really, the origins, and this is why I wanted to go into it, the origins of it, going back to King James, all right, dealing with the union of Scotland and England, okay, but that plays a pivotal part as well, because that really shows you that the Union Jack, all right, the union of Jacob with Scotland and England, serving as the beginning of that, pertain to one of the greatest kings, all right, that in terms of what we could say upon earth, all right. I'm not gonna rank him like it's or herald him like he's some great king, that never did no wrong, but I mean it in the sense of what he did as pertaining to the Holy Bible. All right. And in his doing so, King James, all right, who was a so-called black man, this is, iconoclasm, was part of the Jacobean era. All right. So let's read a bit of that. Because I know at the time as well, he had uh trying so mm, okay, there's a Jacobean. Let me just check something quickly as far as Ireland. Yes, of course. Alright, I'll go back to Ireland in a second. But let me just read this point. Jacobean era. The Jacobean era was the period in English and Scottish history that coincides with the reign of James VI of Scotland, who also inherited the crown of England in 1603 as James I. All right, which the name James goes back to Jacob, Yaakov. All right, that's why one of the nicknames for James, I believe, well, actually it's Jimmy, but it's James is interchangeable with Jacob. All right, this is why it would be known as the Jake. Why do you think it's known as the Jacobean era? The Jacobean era succeeds the Elizabethan era, all right, and precedes the Caroline era. The term Jacobean is often used for the distinctive style of Jacobean architecture, visual arts, decorative arts, and literature which characterized that period. All right. The word Jacobean is derived from Neo-Latin Latin Jacobeus from Jacobus, the ecclesial Latin from the English name James. See, all right. So this is a time where Jake was ruling. Now, one of the things that was mentioned, I'll try and find some information. Oops, Island. Let's see. No, I'm gonna deep dive down a rabbit hole now because bloody hell, I wanna just find some particular. Very one. I'm gonna have to do my deep dive on this because there's some things. So okay, the Union of Crowns. All right, the Union of Crowns was the ascension. Let me look up this word real quick. joining acquisition of James VI of Scotland to the throne of the Kingdom of England as James I, and practical unification of some functions such as overseas diplomacy of the two separate realms under a single individual. On 24th of March 1603. It followed the death of James' cousin Elizabeth I of England, the last monarch of the Tudor dynasty. The union was personal and dynastic, with the Crown of England and the Crown of Scotland remaining both distinct and separate despite James' best efforts to create a new imperial throne. England and Scotland continued as two separate states sharing a monarch who directed their domestic and foreign policies along with Ireland until the Acts of Union 1707 during the reign of the last Stuart monarch and Anne. Alright. However, there was a Republican interim in the 1650s during which the tender of union of Oliver Cromwell created the Commonwealth of England and Scotland, which ended with Stuart restoration. So I thought as much. I was trying to understand it, but Ireland was included in that union, but it was as it was said before with King Henry. Here it says the law this lasted until Parliament of Ireland conferred the Crown of Ireland upon King Henry VIII of England during the English Reformation. Henry initiated the Tudor conquest of Ireland, which ended Gaelic political independence from the English monarch, who now held crowns of England and Ireland in a personal union. Right, so that is there you go. So the Union Jack, even though Ireland didn't pertain to the flag at the time, it was part of the Union of Jacob. All right. So let's read this because the apostles mention about the name Jack, all right, and it being referred to a lower class. So I just looked it up. It says it says from worldwide the, the AI mode. There you go. So it says Jack. This is what Elder Bishop Sakaran mentioned. Saying about I believe you read it about the name Jack being associated with the lower social classes. So here it says, in some contexts, particularly historically and in certain colloquial expressions, the name Jack has been associated with lower social classes or common people. Historical uses in Britain, the name Jack gained popularity as a common name among the working class before becoming more widespread. And this is true. All right, I'm from the east, born and raised in the East End of London. All right, and that's historically the poor part of London. All right, it's basically, man, it gets ragged on because it is actually, it's historically the poor place. So you're gonna see a difference in the East End of London when you go as far as when you go to even the central parts of East are more built up because it's more centralized. But then as far as when you go to North, South East, even though South East is South London's known as the ghetto of England, but it's not as bad. Yeah, it more has an attitude. There's a mindset, spirit down there. But as far as development, East just is degraded. But then the point being is that it's a working class environment. And the amount of jacks I know growing up, all right, it's just that's a name. So even the fact that it's a generic term, it speaks to that point. Now, and then it feeds furthermore into why would why would it be a colloquial term being called a jack, all right, and then being placed in the lower, the most deprived part of London, all right, because you go back to what Jacob, all right, a lot of them know you'd meet them, they'll be racist as fuck, but the reality of it is, a lot of them are Jake. They go back to Jake and Jack, and Jake is another name. Those names are super common within that within the lower working class, right, of so-called Edomites that most likely pertain to Jacob. All right. So it really shows you through the spirit, you know, Israel is still labeled Israel. All right. That's why, what did it say with the curses? Let me read that quickly. Because it was known as a colloquial term, right? Um, are there Deuteronomy 28 and 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord Yahweh shall lead thee. And there is a great distinction, you know, you'd have to be here to kind of know, or just have a similar kind of experience and know that there's a great divide between, you know, the Edomites and the more uh, prestigious parts of London or prestigious parts of the United Kingdom, as far as to compare to those in the working class environments, right? But I'm just kind of dealing with London because it's what I know, right? There's a big difference, even though, funnily enough, the most common name apart among the more higher class Edomites is James, right? They're all named James, which is quite funny. So that even speaks to, you know, a lot of them maybe are Jake as well, right? But it shows you the distinction. They use James, and the lower class use Jack, right? So, you know, let me just read some scriptures to build upon that point, and then we're out of here. So it's a book of Isaiah 45, 4 and 5, which reads, for Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. All right. And that's what you see. As I mentioned, when you deal with the working class, and then even when you deal with the upper class, James, uh, until I worked somewhere going back to 2017 to about 2020, and it's of it's how can I say, it's a upper class, it's a staple upper class brand, all right, because basically they deal directly with the queen and the royal family. One of the guys who's a driver, he's from Bow, Jake, I used to chat to a lot because we're both from the East End, so we have a lot of similarities in the culture we grew up in. But basically speaking to him, he told me that he actually drove when William and Kate got married. He actually had the dress. He drove the dress up to the Buckingham Palace. All right, which is quite funny. I don't know why I said that, but hey, the spirit wanted to come out. But the point being is, in that work environment, every guy that worked there, his name was James. That was just, and then even I must have dealt with one girl from one of those type of environments as well, and she told me she was kind of ragging on, you know, um, them guys, and she was saying they're all called James. So it's like it's a trope, you know what I mean? Same thing when you deal with the lower class, they're all called Jack. Like I couldn't tell you how many Jacks I met in my lifetime coming up. All right. But that's part of the spirit. So I'll read again Isaiah 45, 4. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I've even called thee by thy name. I've surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. All right, because they're doing things in accordance to their spirit, as it tells you in Romans, the first chapter, and they become a law unto them. Even though, and that's why even when you deal with, look at Judah in the Americas, they have names that are like bootleg Hebrew, man. You know, Shaquan, uh, and even then when you deal with like the Atlanteans, they deal with, you know, the Greek names like Crovavia. I can't, but they all, you know, have a Greek kind of name. These are things that are in the spirit that were done before, all right, and they're doing them again. Verse 5, I am the Lord Yahweh, and there is none else. There is no God or power beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. Right. And this is why we're seeing it. We see that culturally, our people do things pertaining to the spirit. And this is why even when you deal with the Jacobean reign, King James, you know, the union of Jacob was such a big thing that it was heralded as such. Because over here, They knew who they were. All right, they were Jake, they were Israelites, and this is why we see it ruminate today through the Spirit, because it's prophetic. So let's build upon that. Let's go to the book of Numbers, the 24th chapter. And we're going to read from verse 13 to 20. All right, so it says, if Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the commandment of the Lord Yahweh to do either good or bad of mine own mind. But what the Lord Yahweh saith, that will I speak. And now behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee that this people shall do to thy people what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days. And he took up his parable and said, Balaam the son of Beor have said, and the man whose eyes are open have said, he have said, which heard the words of the Most High, and knew, or the power, and knew the knowledge of the Most High, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, being Yahweh Shai, and the morning star, the day star, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, Yahweh Shai again from the tribe of Judah, and shall smite the corners of Moab and destroy the children of Sheph. And Edom shall be a possession, Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob, all right, Jack, all right, which is the true union of Jacob, pertains to uh the northern and southern kingdom coming together. All right, shall come he that hath dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. Right, and this is even today showing you that we're the former of all things. When you deal with the divine right of kings, the prophecy in the book of Genesis 49:12 on down, pertaining to Judah, this is what was utilized by our forefathers during the reign, during the Dark Ages, as far as their proclamation to having the to hold the scepter, the rod of inheritance as kings. But this is what something that's been hijacked by the Edomites of today. All right, when you deal with um they call themselves today uh House of Saxo Coburg, I believe is their original name, but they say they're of the House of Windsor, all right, just to make it more, English sounding. But they go back to Germany, and not only Germany itself, but they pertain to the House of Amalek, all right, which is the so-called Jews, all right, and they're the chief house of Edom, one of the prominent people as far as destruction is imminent, which I'm going to read. So, verse 19, out of Jacob shall come he that hath dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. So these people that are parading as us, all right, fake false flagging, all right, basically are going to be destroyed, because as I read before, this Union Jack originally started with who? James, King James, all right, who also made the Bible, all right, which says a whole lot through the Spirit. This is why I'm reading these scriptures, all right, because it basically is, you could see it as a symbolic of what's to come. All right, because he also translated the Bible into English, which we use today, mainly the King James version, for these prophecies to go out and to gather for the unification of Jacob. All right, and which it didn't have um Ireland, but he Ireland was under their rulership. All right, but reading on it says I know that was the point. So let's close out with this scripture here. Oh, Matthew 25. It's all about confidence, baby. So it's Matthew 25 and 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So yeah, you're gonna see the unification of Jacob, all right, and righteousness. So I pray you were edified with that video, all right, that information I brought forth, and definitely worth checking out the apostles because they deep dive into it. I haven't actually finished watching the bit that I was watching, but yeah, with that, I pray you're edified. Shalom.